There is breaking news. So the state of Virginia has asked the Supreme Court to hear their voter roll case. We've talked about this case before a number of times. We're filing in this case. 6,000 names, individuals who voluntarily, they were filling out forms. So as forms they filled out, who are either lawful residents, permanent residents, not always permanent residents, but again, they also mark that they're not citizens, so they're not eligible to vote in a presidential election or probably any elections in Virginia. But Virginia wants to make sure they're not on the voter rolls. You would think this is like common sense and that the Commonwealth of Virginia, the government could just do this and that's that. I mean, it was forms that these people submitted themselves. So not really any questions about, was this partisan done or was this done because people felt intimidated? No, not at all. And this is just something that states are continuing to have to deal with because we know that there's a lot of people in these states that are there legally and they're illegally. So there's both. And then you also want to protect people who are there legally. And one way you protect them is by not walking them into a trap like voting, which then they've committed some kind of crime and could be expelled or lose what is not an easy status to get in the U.S. necessarily, which is resident status that allows you to be in the United States sometimes on a permanent basis. And usually those people are on a path to citizenship, but a something like this, like where if you voted in a presidential election and that was illegal to do so, could really cause problems. It may be the reason why you don't get to stay on a path to ultimately getting citizenship in the U.S. So what is the ACLJ doing? The ACLJ will also be filing. Now this is at the U.S. Supreme Court. And I want to tell you something that's always unique. The Chief Justice has already responded. And the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court has said, I want the brief from those opponents of the Commonwealth of Virginia who want to keep these people on the voter rolls. So this isn't just a long shot now at this point, Will, that Virginia threw out to the U.S. Supreme Court. They've already got the Chief Justice going to the opposition to the Commonwealth. We are preparing to file tomorrow as well.
And people may have a question about, like, what does it mean that these people are non-citizen and they self-identified? Well, it's on the first page of the brief, the emergency application for stay. They say that some of the individuals personally informed the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles that they are not citizens, and others presented non-citizen residency documents to the DMV, and then they were positively identified as non-citizens through the United States' own systematic alien verification for entitlements database. So, and once again, this doesn't necessarily mean that these are illegal immigrants. These are people that are in the country many times legally. They have residency documents, but they aren't able to vote under our system of government. They are not citizens. They don't have that right as an American. But they were getting documents, state documents that they are allowed to get. And that's where some of these like motor voter rolls and things of that can cause issues if the states aren't allowed to purge them as necessary when someone is saying, I am not a citizen, therefore I cannot vote. They should not be placed on the roll. Now, the other side is trying to argue, and I know the DOJ was involved in this case as well, that it is too close to the election for them to be purging these rolls. They've been doing this consistently throughout as new people are added to the rolls because of getting driver's licenses and things like that. Virginia is just continuing what they have been doing, and this is under a law that was signed into law by Governor Tim Kaine, who was Hillary Clinton's running mate back in 2016, senator from Virginia, former governor. This was a law passed by Democrats. This is not some Republican push in 2024 to make news around the election. This is just them trying to defend the sacred right to vote for American citizens.
The Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court has already responded and has required the opposition to what the Commonwealth of Virginia want to do. This is the Virginia Coalition for Immigrant Rights to actually file their brief in opposition by tomorrow at 3 p.m.
So the filing from the Commissioner of Elections, Virginia Commissioner of Elections, Susan Bales was filed this morning. It was breaking news. We jumped on it. This is a case we have been following. It moved very quickly from district court to appeals court, and now it is being asked for an emergency stay at the Supreme Court because of Virginia's location. And it was the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals that heard it. These requests go to the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice was presented with this when it was filed this morning, and he has already ordered a response by the Chief Justice due by 3 p.m. Eastern Time on October 29th, so tomorrow. Sometimes this is one of the big clues you look for if the court is going to consider this. Because if it gets docketed and just sits there, especially on an emergency appeal, then the court may not even be considering looking at it. But the Chief Justice has already ordered a response from the party, the Virginia Coalition for Immigrant Rights, tomorrow by 3 p.m. Eastern. We at the ACLJ are planning to file our amicus tomorrow as well to try to get our arguments on the record before the justices as soon as we can.
There's a lot to get into there. We're going to be updating you again on the ACLJ filing, update you on what happens next to the Supreme Court. But it's always good news for the Commonwealth, who had just filed this over the weekend, that they are already getting response from the Chief Justice, asking for a response from their opponents by 3 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. This is one of the first major cases on election integrity to make it to the Supreme Court before Election Day. If you want to contact us, and we're going to be launching this a little bit more like hardcore tomorrow, but I want you ready now. So if anything happened, and it's kind of like last week, when we were telling you, listen, if you got an issue and you think it's something that is potentially a legal question or that you might need an attorney representing you or helping you, go to aclj.org/election hotline. If you've had any issues, I just want you to know, again, aclj.org/election hotline. That's a great place to go. I will tell you this. If you're hearing from someone else, try to get them or provide their information, because we can only represent people who the incidents actually happened to. So, again, maybe you just need information. You're concerned about, where do I go early vote? Or you think that your vote wasn't counted, or that maybe something about, maybe you're volunteering and someone said to you, you're not allowed to give that out, this close. We will, if we need to do a quick review of the laws about how close can you get to the polling place in your state and your community, we can do things like that. So again, that's aclj.org/election hotline. And I say all this to say this. If you don't want to have to worry about all those issues, get 10 extra friends out, okay, who share your beliefs, who are going to vote the way you vote. And then if we all do that, we're going to do when we swap the vote, the vote's going to be huge, and we're going to know who's president. We're going to know who's won most of the races on, election night, plus give me, a few hours into the next day, maybe midday, even mid-morning, where most races, there might be some congressional and some Senate races that are still being counted, but for the most part, we're going to know the makeup of the Congress and who is going to be the next president of the United States. We can do that. We still have the ability to do that in these last 8 days.